اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة يا شفيع الأمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله، اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي، أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي، أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين، يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله يا أبا إبراهيم يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. التماس الدعاء. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا ساداتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين اللهم لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات فاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم लाइट्स ऑन कर दें أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا السماء انفطرت وإذا الكواكب انتثرت وإذا البحار فجرت وإذا القبور بعثرت علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت يا أيها الإنسان ما غرك بربك الكريم الذي خلقك فسواك فعدلك في أي سورة ما شاء ركبك صدق الله العلي العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tuesday night program inshallah will be starting from now on at 8 p.m. as the time for namaz-e-maghrib is increasing, and we'll keep it at 8 p.m. moving forward until the time starts coming down again, which will be in a couple of months' time. So therefore, just make a note of that, that tonight we started the program at 8 p.m. with the recitation of Dua Tawassul. And if you recall that we've been doing the tafsir, a holistic tafsir, not in-depth analysis of the surahs in the 30th juz of Quran. So if you've been counting in the order that we've been going, we started with Surah Naba, the 78th chapter of Quran. Then we did Surah Nazi'at. Then we did Surah Abasa. We did Surah Takwir. And tonight we will be doing the tafsir of Surah Infitar, which is chapter number 82 in the order, in the chronological order in Quran. I recited for you the first 8 ayat, although there are 18 and 19 verses in this chapter. Again, we're not doing the in-depth tafsir of these ayat, although each one of these ayat require in-depth analysis. But we'll just, for tabarruk, we have recited these ayat. I'll translate. إِذَا السَّمَاءٌ فَطَرَتْ. The chapter begins by giving us this news, that when the sky breaks apart, or when the sky or the heaven is split open, when the stars are scattered, although the stars are already scattered in the, and when you look up on the sky, you see the stars are all scattered around, but even more they'll be scattered at that time. When the seas are merged, so while you see that pretty much all the sea on this earth are connected, at least the major oceans are all pretty much connected, the Atlantic, the Pacific, and the other oceans are all Arabian and the Indian. But the message over here is that there's no land that will remain. It'll all be submerged under all these bodies of water, as you're seeing this phenomena slowly and gradually, right? So if you look at the pictures of things that were, over the body of water, now they have submerged under the body of water because of, global warming that is happening, and because of the glaciers that are melting in the north and even, I suppose, South Pole. And as though the snow is melting, it every year melts enough that it causes erosions. It causes, many of the above the sea level areas to be now under the sea level. So there are fascinating pictures of, things not too long ago, 100 years ago. I'm not talking about millions of years ago. Of course, if you look at the formation of the earth from millions of years ago, that it was under the water and then it started emerging out of the water, right? So the land emerged. And the first place that we believe, according to the ayat of Quran, بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا وَالْأَرْضَ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ دَحَاهَا, as the ayat mentions, that the first place that emerged was the place where you have the present day Makkatul Mukarramah. That's إِنَّ أَوَّلَ بَيْتٍ وَضِعَ لِلنَّاسِ لَلَّذِي بِبَكَّةَ مُبَارَكَةً. That was the first place that emerged from the water. But nonetheless, now we have all these areas that are above the sea level. So with that said, when everything is above the sea level, now you see the phenomena is returning, where because of the glaciers melting, because of the snow melting, because of all of these natural calamities that we have brought upon ourselves, we see now the land is again submerging under the water. So it says, when the seas are merged, when the graves are overturned. Again, the meaning of graves being overturned is that those who are the inhabitants of the graves, they are pretty much brought out. Then a soul shall know what it has sent ahead and left behind. That every insan, alimat nafsun. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say if the bodies that are buried, the bodies do not know, but the soul knows what it has sent forth and what it has left behind. So you'd rather have something sent ahead of time, have enough available over there. For example, when you go to this new place, you can use your ATM machine to take the money out on the ATM machine that is available over there, instead of keeping all that with you, because you won't be able to carry it with you. So make sure that you send it ahead of time. It's already there before you actually arrive at that place. So then a soul shall know what it has sent ahead and left behind. O man, what has deceived you about your generous Lord, who created you and proportioned you and gave you an upright nature? This is where the khilqat of insan and the amazement and the mind boggling as to how do we figure out the creature that Allah has created in the form of Hazrat Insan, and the capabilities that are hidden inside insan, every human being, created from this najis fluid, yet has so much potential in it that when it comes into this world, what type of wonders that it is capable of achieving. So many people have achieved great deal of stuff in their lifetime, and had they lived longer, they would have been able to achieve more. So this is where Allah says, we created you, proportioned you, and gave you an upright nature, and composed you in any form that He wished. And then He says, no, indeed, you deny the retribution. So I'll remain content with these ayat that I recited for you, the first 8 ayat and the translation of these first 8 ayat. But after these first 8 ayat, where the discussion was pretty much surrounding insan, the discussion changes over to kiram and katibin, the angels that are prescribed to go ahead and write the good and the bad. They know what you do. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about and highlights and hints towards those who are abrar, the good doers, the righteous, and then refers to those who are the fujjar, those who are the evil ones. And the place of abrar is na'im, is the paradise, and the place for fujjar will be vicious, will be the hell. And then, of course, towards the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings a concept of what this Qayamat is going to look like. So this was just an overview. Let me just get into some of the key words of it. Infitar means to split open or to break apart. So if you break anything apart, if it's joined together, you break it apart, that's called infitar. You know the word fatara, right? Futur. Or breakfast is called futur, right? Or when we used to break our iftar, right? We would break our fast, so it was called iftar. So it's the same root, fatara. Fatara samawati wal ard. And fatirus samawati wal ard is the reference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's from the same root. The main theme of the surah is about the Day of Judgment, as is the case with many of these surahs in the 30th juz of Quran, and its features as well as the warnings for those who indulge in fraudulent activities while buying and selling. The name of surah is Infitar, taken from its first verse, إِذَا السَّمَاءٌ فَطَرَتْ. Well, the reference to those who do fraud between selling and buying and selling, that is a reference to Surah Mutaffifin, which will come inshallah. Here, the Surah Infitar, the first verse is where the name is taken, when the sky is split open, the sky breaks apart. Other names are Infitar, Infatarat, or Munfatira. Of course, the reason behind the naming this obvious. That's the very first ayat of the surah, which talks about the sky being split open. There are 19 ayat, 80 words, and 327 letters in this surah. Some of the aims and the objectives, if you haven't already understood the aims and objective, let me just spell it out for you again. The main topic of discussion is showing different signs of Day of Resurrections and different features of Day of Resurrection. As I said, many of these chapters are about Qayamat, and these were revealed in where? Makkah. So as soon as you hear discussion about Qayamat, right away it should click in your mind that this chapter must be revealed where? In Makkah. Why? Majority of the discussion regarding Ma'ad were settled in Makkah, in the Makki life of Rasulullah, where the Masail of Ma'ad were mentioned. So the main discussion is showing the different signs and the features of that day, while there are other topics, and we can divide the surah into 5 different discussions about Qayamat. So it's all about Qayamat, but then you can further divide it into 5 different topics about Qayamat. Number 1, Ishratu Sa'a, the great events that will unfold towards the end of the time. You know how you have certain signs of the reappearance of Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. There are certain signs which are inevitable, hatmi, they must take place. There are certain signs which may or may not happen. So while those signs that are must, similarly there are Ashratu Sa'at as well, the conditions for that day, that there are certain events that will unfold which will sort of indicate to us that yes, Qayamat is near. Man's attention to the blessings of God that pervade his whole being and breaking of his pride to prepare him for the resurrection. So the moment you explain to someone that this is, I'm giving example, you shouldn't do this to others. Allah can do it, but you and I should not do it to someone else. That, or a father, for example, can do it to the son and the daughter. That when the children, for example, are bragging about, oh, look what I've achieved, father says, wait a minute, who got you all the way over here? Was I not the one who held your finger and brought you to this place? Was it not because of me that you were able to attain this, high-class education and then attain this degree and graduate? Because of my tarbiyat, you are over here? So don't brag in front of me. When the father mentions the ni'mat, and a child realizes that, yes, I would not have been able to accomplish any of this had it not been for the help of my elderly, it breaks the pride of that individual, right? You and I should not do this to other individuals. If we have done some favor to someone else, and someone else is, enjoying those blessings, sometimes to break their pride, you gotta bring them that, look, everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why are you, bragging about it? So to shatter and brag, or to shatter the pride, the false pride, sometimes the tazkirah of ni'mat is done. Number 3, reference to the angels who are responsible for recording our actions, fate of good and the na'im, and those who are abrar and those who are fujjar, the good and the bad in Qiyamah, and the reference to some of the difficulties of that day. Some of the features and the reward of reciting this surah, there's a narration that narrates from our 6th Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, whoever recites these 2 surahs, Surah Infitar and Surah Inshiqaq, in the obligatory prayers or the recommended prayers, keeps them in front of himself, meaning what? That pays attention to the matalib that are mentioned in the surah. Allah will not bar this person behind any veils on the day of judgment. There won't be any impediments between him and Allah. Not literally Allah. Allah's mercy, meaning he will constantly be receiving the mercy of Allah while the accountability of other people are being done. So meaning what? You'll be told, okay, yeah, right here, please take a seat. Let me go ahead and deal with all these people. All these people are being tested. What are you given? You're given this VIP seat over here. Just because you used to recite the Surah Infitar and Surah Inshiqaq. So I would make an effort to go ahead and recite this surah. If you don't have it memorized, many of us don't have it memorized, keep it in front of you in namaz-e-wajib or even namaz-e-mustahab. Recite it, or outside of namaz, just recite the surah. If you want to be counted amongst those who are sitting next, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing the accountability of everyone else, and you get to see all of that. Revelation of the surah, it was revealed in Makkah upon Prophet, after Prophet ascended to the heavens, and before migrated to Medina, and in the order of revelation after Surah Nazi'at. Considering the Surah Infitar was revealed at the end of Prophet's life in the city of Makkah, and before his migration to Medina, so probably the last couple of years, when they spent in this Shaykh Abi Talib, and according to the situation of the day, when polytheists denied the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this surah in response to some of them. They were declining and denying and rejecting Rasulullah's claims about Qiyamah. It refers to the condition of the day and the destiny of the believers and unbelievers and the difficult conditions of that day. It also prepares insan about resurrection and paying attention to the blessings of his existence and breaking, again we said, the false pride that sometimes creeps into us. Surah Infitar is placed at number 82 in the current order of Quran. It is also Surah number 80 in the chronological order of revelation after Surah Nazi'at. And it is well connected with the previous chapter, Surah Takfir. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us the tawfiq and ability to recite this surah, get in the habit of reciting this surah, and to learn from the matalib and the high morals of the surah, which amongst them is breaking the false pride that sometimes creeps into all of us. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli. It's time for adhan. You want to give adhan, brother? Yeah.